welcome back to Positively Board Gaming, the board gaming podcast that talks all about the board gaming industry and the people who are a part of it. I am Mitchell Whitfield, joined every week by my co-host and my friend, the wonderful man behind Stonemeyer Games, Jamey Stegmeyer. Jamey, how are you?
I am doing great, Mitchell. It's great to see you. Friday afternoon, always nice to spend a few minutes with you on Friday afternoon. As usual, though, I want to know your treat for the week. What are you enjoying today or this weekend? Yeah.
That's a great question. And I'm all ready for you, Jamey. I'm always, well, as if I haven't had something delicious during the day that I would like, oh, I haven't had anything. That's never going to happen. So I'm a very lucky man in many ways. But I'm also in a sweet related way. I'm very lucky that I married well into a family of bakers.
Oh,
So, Tracy, my wife, bakes lovely treats, makes great cookies and brownies. And my sister-in-law, Christy, she makes the most incredible peanut butter cookies with a baked-in Reese's peanut butter cup in the middle. But the cookie is so, sometimes people do that, and the cookie's like,
yeah,
and you just go for the center.
yeah.
Her cookies are so good. And now she made a Toll House with M&Ms, which normally I wouldn't be into because it's chocolate overdose for me. I kind of would like to, but they were, Jamey, so good. Again, think outside the box. I went for something that I normally wouldn't go for. I'd go for the plain ones, but
Uh-huh.
they were so good. So, Christy, thank you so much. You are contributing to my girth and to my unhealthy lifestyle. My doctors will be in touch with you, and so will my lawyer. Jamey, what about you? What is your sweet treat of the day?
My sweet treat of the day. That sounds delicious, and I'm
Oh,
glad
so
that
good.
you're in a family of bakers, or married into a family of bakers.
Yes, yes.
My treat. So I mentioned on my live cast this week on Wednesday that Megan had picked up one for each of us. She picked up this big piece of chocolate
Yes, the
cake from
cake.
PF Chang's. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think they call it like the Great Wall of Cake. And that piece of cake is so big that I'm not even halfway through it. And we're recording this 2 days later. That's 4 meals later. I've had it at every meal, and I still have more than half the cake, which I'm happy with. It has stayed delicious and good, and it's got the little chocolate chip. It got the little chocolate chips, not M&Ms. The little chocolate chips. I like those little chocolate chips.
But you've been just to be clear here. It
Yeah.
isn't like you forgot about it 4 days ago. You've
Oh
been
no,
eating bits of it every day.
sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
Go
Yeah,
shame
I'm
yourself.
almost
You're among
constantly
friends.
eating it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go for it. And it's like it's ever like an everlasting gobstopper. It never like decreases. It just keeps on. That's you know what? Those are so
yeah,
good. And chocolate cake again, you could keep it in the fridge for
yeah,
a week and just put some whipped topping on top of it to freshen it up every. Oh my god! See now I'm like
yeah.
I'm craving. Cheesecake Factory is a similar thing. Linda's Fudge Cake is their
Uh-huh.
version of the PF Chang cake, and it has the little chocolate chips, really thick fudgy icing, and then they make this homemade. You know what? I can't continue like this. I'm getting the vapors, Jamey. I'm getting the vapors. Something awful. It's like, why did Mitchell pass out midway through your podcast? Before we
Yeah,
start, and I'd like, if you don't mind,
yeah,
I'd like you to start this week. Before we do get started, as we often do, we have like a little subtopic, and then we get to each of our topics. You talked
yeah.
about your live cast this past week. You did something really important, and again, I don't want to belabor talking about tariffs, because it is what it is, and but they do affect people. Of course, there's an effect to everything, and it really does affect the board gaming industry a lot, in particular because of how much manufacturing is done overseas. And you did something really great in your live, I think it was the live cast, I'm pretty sure it was, where you talked about what the average gamer or the game fan, a game buyer could do to help
Mhm.
mitigate this a little bit. Because a lot of people are saying, what can we do to help? This is an industry and a hobby where people are really supportive, not just of each other and the games, but the people behind them, the companies behind them.
Yeah.
Um, and you said, and if I remember correctly, and please jump in if I misspeak at all, but I think you said the two things that people can really do that have a great direct effect to help people right now is to
Mhm.
buy your board games directly from the publisher, which is a great thing. Because I'm guessing when you buy from the big box stores, the big box stores have already bought them from the publisher. They've already been
Right.
purchased. So you're not really giving money directly to the publisher anymore. Not that it's a bad thing, but when you buy from the publisher, it goes directly to that company. Or buy from your friendly local game store. These stores are also going to be greatly affected by this.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great thing to bring up and important. So because people don't you think people always you find in this hobby people are looking to help each other when there were issues with shipping during COVID
Right.
with Kickstarters. People were looking like, how can we help? What can we do to mitigate some of these challenges that people are having? So I appreciate you doing that. And I have a question for you.
But
And it's,
can I revise a small part of that?
yes, yes, please do.
Part of it. And I agree with you. The community is amazing. The support, the people that just that people are asking about that is amazing. The one small revision I'd say to it is that the I I would say publishers are going to get hit really hard with their cash flow right now. They are. It's already happening. If anyone has already shipped something, it will continue to happen over the next few weeks. That's why I said if you have X amount of money that you want to spend on
Right. If you have $200, I believe you said, yeah. Yeah.
$200 is the number I use. Use half of that now directly to publishers, but save the other half
Yes.
for a few months, because that's when retailers are going to get hit really hard as prices start to go up and potentially even skyrocket. So I think
No,
you said
thank you.
before, I want to revise that to an and publisher
Yes.
and retailer, publisher now, retailer in a month or so.
And that's
So,
important.
yeah.
No, I'm glad that you did. That's why I said I didn't want to misspeak about that. And it's also important to know, again, we talk about directly to your friendly local game stores when because again, the big box stores, which nothing wrong with getting games at a big box store, but again, they don't just rely on board games for their income. They are selling other things like patio furniture and clothing and other things. But our friendly local game stores are only selling games. And again, the impact there will definitely be felt. Okay, so here's the slightly it's not an uncomfortable question, but I know the reaction could be like, oh no, I don't know how I feel about that, but I want to know. We as gamers in the community, we want to help. We don't always know, like anything else. So when someone's going through something, people don't always know the best way to do it. They don't always know the best way to ask how to do it, because sometimes the questions can be uncomfortable too, and no one wants to feel silly or feel like they're asking something inappropriate. So how weird would it be? And again, you can take yourself out of the equation if you want, or you can speak for Stonemeyer if you want.
Yeah.
How strange would it be if publishers and designers on their websites were to put, if you'd like to help us through this tariff crisis or through this tariff, and you'd like to donate, here's a way to do it. Because for me, I get so much joy and I get so much out of the games and the people, who play them and design them, like yourself and other designers and publishers. I'd like to be able to give back, whether it's $1, $5, $20, $50, whatever it is. I think there are more people like me that would like to do that. How weird would it be or how feasible is it for publishers and companies to put on their website, if you'd like to help us, here's a way how? Or does that seem like too ASCII, or what is your feeling about that?
Well, I love that you're asking that question. I think it's like I said about the community. You're part of the community. I'm part of the community. It is wonderful that we are trying to look out for each other in what is a very chaotic, difficult time. I think it might depend a little bit on the publisher.
Okay.
As for the viability of that, and honestly, if any publisher puts out a message like that, I completely respect it. Something that we were actually planning to do until things went so crazy that the numbers the math doesn't math anymore.
Okay.
Was we were planning to put on our web store a message at checkout that said, we have not increased our prices due to tariffs. This was when tariffs were at 20%. We have not increased our prices, but if you would like to contribute, to the tariff cost, here's how much it would be, and you could check that little box, and it would add $4 to your order, or something like that.
Okay.
That was one approach that we were taking, and so another version of that is what you're saying, that publishers could ask for a donation contribution. And I would say the publishers that are the most in need of that right now are publishers who thought they were who have products on the boat right now, and they are getting hit with unprecedented high cost as those boats are arriving from China to the U.S. So those are the ones that if we hear from those publishers right now, I don't think that's greedy. People have thrown out that word greed. I do not think that's greedy at all. This is a survival element right now. They are trying to survive. And I think it's wonderful that people like you are looking to support them.
Thank you. Listen, there are some small publishers that, don't have it as easy as, the larger, mid-size and the large publishers. They don't have the advantage of being able to put out multiple games, where they are genuinely and quite literally living their business game to game.
Yeah.
Release to release, using one release to fund the next project. And again, there's not a huge, this isn't like pharmaceuticals where there's a huge markup. I mean, it's a horrible example to give, but I mean, it's true. This is like a very small margin business compared to other businesses. So I'm glad we had this conversation. And again, if you think like I do and like Jamey does, and it's worth, even if you have your favorite publisher and you just want to send an email, say, hey, is there a way that I can help? Or is there a way you can do what some publishers are doing? And maybe at checkout, give me the option to make a donation. Not that you're asking for it, but give people the ability to do it. Even if you don't promote it, just have it so we can do what we want to do. You know what I mean? If we want to do something to help, we can, without feeling like it's a grab, which I don't feel it is anyway. But anyway, I digress. That was my little subtopic. Jamey, what you got for me this week in Creepy Voice?
So my topic this week is it's tied to the title of or the name of our podcast, and
Mhm.
I would love to talk about positive player interaction
Oh,
today.
sure.
'Cause we're a podcast that talks about the positive elements of games, and there's lots of different ways to enjoy games and find fun in games. But I really love positive player interaction. And it came to mind this week because I was playing. I have a visual. I was playing the expansion for Earth,
Earth.
the Abundance expansion, and this expansion adds in abundance the idea of positive player interaction. Where oftentimes where you're doing something on your turn, um, the ability says you get this, Jamey gets this, but also Mitchell gets this. Mitchell's my neighbor. He gets this. Or all other players get this. Or a specific other player gets this. They have a bunch of different icons that mean positive player interaction based on different formats like that. It's something that we do in a lot of our games, like Apiary. Finspan has a ton of positive player interaction. So it's something that I've shown through the games that I've worked on. But it always makes me happy when I see it in a game, or a game expansion like this one. And the reason for me, we're talking about feelings a little bit today, I think. The reason for me is that it feels really good for me when other players get stuff in games.
Yeah.
I like rewarding games, and I like being able to reward other players, even in competitive games. It doesn't feel like it's taking away something from my experience to give to others in that way. Um, so I just love it. I love positive player interaction. I want to hear your thoughts on if you like this type of mechanism in games.
Absolutely love it. And I think it's even more important in competitive games because
Yeah.
cooperative games seem to lend themselves to be more interactive, positively more than anything that with your teammates. So when it happens in a competitive game, and again, it just takes that edge off a little bit and reminds you, like, hey, at the end of the day, we're here to have fun. We're here to and having that mutually beneficial turn, I absolutely love. And I'll tell you one game that I love that does it. We've talked about it before, but I also think it's important in terms of focus in a strange way
Hmm.
because sometimes in games, and again, this doesn't happen with every group, it doesn't happen with every game, but depending on your group and the game, when people are taking their own turns and it is that person's turn, it doesn't really affect other people in terms of benefiting from that turn necessarily. People
Right.
sometimes are, rightfully so, planning their next move, thinking about something else, and just waiting for that turn to be over until it gets to them. I kind of don't really do that because I like to live through other people's stuff and kind of get that joy through it. But I think it can be easy sometimes, depending on the game and the group, to kind of tune out a little bit when it's not your turn and just sort of focus on, okay, I hope they don't put this card down. If they don't do that, I'm fine because I have to create my little tableau here and I have to get this engine
Right.
going. But when there is a benefit during everyone's turn, everyone is sort of there, not
Yeah.
necessarily in a selfish way, more like in a fun way. Just
Yeah.
okay, I hope they do something that I can get something from. I
Right.
hope, and I think the game that I mentioned in one of your videos, I think might have been a year or so ago,
Hmm.
was Merchants of the Dark Road, which is a
Yeah.
game that I love in terms of its
Yeah.
deluxeification. You already know that.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that it's like, okay, I'm going to go on this road to sell to these people over here. Who's coming with me? And again,
Uh-huh.
the person whose turn it is always going to get something more because it's their turn, of course. That
Right.
makes sense. But
Hmm.
everyone who goes along for the ride has a chance to get something out of it also. And it just brings the table together in a way that's really fun, both in terms of interaction and focus too. So yeah, but that focus, that's one of the things that did jump out to me was the fact that I think when there is slightly something that you can benefit from, it
Hmm.
really brings everyone like paying attention to everyone's turn, which is kind of fun anyway. I think it makes for a
Yeah.
more interactive, fun experience, don't you?
I'm glad you focused a lot on the interaction element there, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did because I think that oftentimes when people say maybe about our games, or I see people talking about games and they say, "Oh, it's multiplayer solitaire. There's no interaction in this game," and oftentimes sometimes I think they mean there's no combat in the game or there's no direct conflict, which is fine. That is a legitimate
Right.
criticism if that is something you are looking for in the game. But positive player interaction is absolutely a form of interaction. Like you said, it gives you a reason to pay attention when it's not your turn. It lets you be involved when it's not your turn, and it gives you several choices as a player. Do I play this card into my tableau in Earth, for example, that helps other players, or do I not do that? That's a
Right.
choice. And do I activate this card that helps other players? It's a fun design space too, because it means, like you said, as a designer, am I going to make a card? I need to make the card so it feels really good for the player who is considering playing it. So they'll
Right.
consider playing it or activating it. And probably less good, but still just like a little fun for the other players. But finding that right balance is fun, I think, as a designer. I love this form of interaction. I think it is a legitimate form of interaction. And I don't want it to be discounted when people talk about player interaction.
I completely agree with you. And you know what it comes to mind also is
Mhm.
Seven Wonders. Because Seven
Yes.
Wonders,
Okay.
I find myself, again, there are things you can do that benefit your neighbors, things that you can use from your neighbor's tableau in front of them that
Yeah.
you can use to enhance your own. So, and again, some of those games, because of that, and again, this is a strategy also
Mhm.
where you decide what you're going to do based on sometimes you don't do a turn that benefits you. You're taking a turn that really won't benefit your neighbor too much because they
Mhm.
need something that's really going to help them. So it cuts
Yeah,
both ways. And sometimes it's like in a little
it does.
competitive way. You have to be aware of the benefits you are giving your neighbors because it could be something that you're not going to be able to come back from in terms of catching them. So you have to sort of mitigate that with I'd really love for Jamey to benefit from this turn, but I really can't afford to have him benefit too much. So I'm really not.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find yourself giving up a card that you really need or you really want just to avoid giving something to some.
Yeah.
So again, the strategy and the
Mhm.
layers, but yes, I'm totally with you. And I love positive player interaction. It makes the games more fun. And again, like we talked about, it sort of takes the edge off of a competitive game and makes you realize what it's all about at the end of the day, which is everyone enjoying and benefiting and having a good time. Wow. I
Yeah.
feel like Mr. Smiley Face here, but it's true. That's how I feel about it, where it is positively board gaming.
It is, yeah. I thought it was a good one to bring up for this podcast in particular, and for the people who are listening. Yeah, let me know at the end, for anyone who's watching, if you have a favorite game or a recent game that you played that had positive player interaction that you felt really good about.
I agree.
Now, talking about feelings, and you've hinted at feelings here. I don't know exactly what your topic is, but I'm
Okay.
curious what you'd like to talk about today.
So I hope I don't butcher the name. We had a comment on one of your on our last video that we showed of this podcast,
Yeah.
and the username was either Juicetager or Juicetager 3923.
Mhm.
Uh, would it be possible to go into the feelings a board games should evoke? What feelings should you strive for when playing or designing a game? And how can you do that? What's the effective theme, thematics, mechanics, components, and how you experience a game at a very deep personal level? Well, funny this should come up because even before reading this, I had my topic that I wanted to talk about. I was like, hey, this sort of feeds right into this. And Jamey, I have a feeling you're going to get this. And I think anyone who's played a campaign game will get this. And that is just, again, the feelings that are evoked by and the emotional attachment we have to our campaign games.
Mm-hmm.
And especially after several sessions when you've grown attached to these characters. The reason I bring this up is tonight, I think it's tomorrow night is our last chapter of Descent Legends of the Dark.
Oh
I
wow.
know it can be a divisive game because some people don't like games that have apps, and I don't feel that way. To me, it's a different kind of gaming, and
Yeah.
I enjoy it very much. And I think originally this game had some challenges with people like supporting it because I think, again, we talked about how expectations feed into it. Everyone
Mhm.
thought this was going to be Descent 3, but it wasn't. It was a different take on the Descent, lore and, everything like that. So
Yeah.
I really responded to it. I really enjoy the game. And my friends are coming over, Eric and Jack, and we are playing the final chapter. And I have mixed feelings because, again, I have grown attached to my characters and to what they do and how they behave. And there's a feeling of excitement, like, oh, and I'm even getting a little goosebumps as we're talking. There's an
Yeah.
excitement to knowing that story is going to sort of resolve, even though I already have the content for the extra content for, I know, new adventure. We won't talk about that. But this particular story is coming to an end.
Mhm.
And there's an excitement that I feel for that. But then there's, you talk about feelings that they evoke. There's a little sense of loss
Mhm.
where I feel
Mm.
bad that I'm not going to be tabling this character in this way in this story anymore. And it started
Right.
off very strangely, Jamey, because my character was, I'm not going to lie, he was kind of a jerk. Everyone at the table was like, are you, because you can choose for each little chapter has its own thing where, it says you have to at least play this character in the story, and then the other characters can be whatever you want. So I was always the swing guy. Eric and
Okay.
Jack played their characters, and I would be the one who would swing among a few different characters.
Okay.
But there was one in particular who's kind of a jerk. I'm not going to lie. That's the way he was written to be. But as you make choices in this game, which is one of the things I like about it, your character evolves emotionally in addition to what they're able to do. Their
Mm.
point of view changes depending on your choices that you make throughout this campaign. So my guy's turned into this hero. Plus, he's killer with a bow. I tolerated his bad attitude because he could really do a lot of things in the game with his bow. He could take out a whole group of people. I was like, I'll play as the jerk just so I can, shoot all the people that we need to shoot in this game. But as we went along, it's like, I'm kind of turning into a hero here. I like this guy. So it evoked a lot of feelings from me. The
Mhm.
feeling of joy of playing this game, the excitement of leveling and seeing how these characters evolved over time, switching characters and seeing the subtleties of how they were different, not only in their abilities and not just through their class and character, but their emotional journey changes throughout the game, which is really kind of different. You don't see that in a lot of games. You're seeing it a little more now, but it's such a great design choice to have characters that evolve emotionally and make choices based on their moral compass, which again adjusts during the game based on how you play it. So for me, I sort of bought into that. And do you
Uh-huh.
find, because you played campaign games as well, do you
Yeah.
find that you sort of would get attached, or even in a legacy game where you're still
Mhm.
playing similar characters over time, did you get attached and sort of feel any loss when it was over?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
And I
well,
think a lot of it is tied to, no, yeah.
thank God. Thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
You
you,
got through all
Jamey.
that, and I'm like, no, not at all.
No, no, Mitch. In
Never felt
fact, you're
that.
quite the freak,
Yeah.
and I have to go. Thank you. Ah,
No, and I think it's especially the case when you are represented as a character in the game, as a single character, rather than we can get attached, I think, to like other things, empires, merchants, things like broader things. But when there's a single character, I've definitely felt that connection in campaign games in particular. I'm trying to think of an example. So I'm playing Clank Legacy 2 right now, and I do have a character in it. Um, I don't know if I feel strongly connected to that character yet. We're 7 games in. So maybe not that game isn't a great example, but I definitely have felt that in the past in certain games, especially I think when I'm able to put a little bit of myself in the character,
yes.
but I'm also able to, it's divided between that and me experiencing something else, a new perspective. A character has a characteristic perhaps that is nothing like me, and I get to walk in their footsteps a little bit and see through their eyes. I think the combination of those two things, that's when I really get connected to that character and feel attached to them and have that sense of loss when I don't get to play that character anymore. That's tough. Yeah.
Oh,
And you're,
and you brought up something that I didn't even think about. It's sort of
mhm,
the dichotomy of the character that you play, which is infused with
mhm.
some of you. And then in order to sort of honor that character is a little bit of role playing and do what this character do in this
Yes.
situation, mixed
Yeah.
in with a little bit more of my moral compass, mixed in with what this character would do. And how do you play it? And you as the player make those choices, how much of your own morality or how much of your own decision space gets put into that versus, look, I have to honor this guy's kind of we know what he likes to do, so I'll do a little
Yeah.
bit of what he wants to do because I am playing as him, but let's make him a little more palatable, so I don't want to knock my own head off at the end of the game because I hate. And by the way, if people have ever played Descent Legends of the Dark, the character I'm talking about is Galadin. And
Okay.
again, he can be very challenging at the beginning. He's got a bad attitude. He's kind of a loner. He doesn't trust anybody. But
Uh,
again, through the game, that trust is built. And
mhm.
through choices, that moral compass definitely gets pointed in a different direction. And he definitely becomes, it's not a spoiler, he does become more of a team player. But the
Yeah.
evolution of that is really, yeah, it's so cool because really, and thank you for that question, by the way. Hold on a second. Thank you again, Juiced. What is it? I don't want to spoil this again. What's the person's name? I don't want to mess it up. I can't. Oh, Juice Hager 3923 or Juice Hager. Yeah. So thank you for that. Um, it's such a nice thing to have when you're gaming that you
Mhm.
don't assume will happen. And again, I think
Yeah.
it's sort of the only way that you experience this, or the way to more strongly experience this, is through either a legacy game or a chapter based or campaign based game. So it makes me,
Yeah.
I'm playing another one. I'm playing another one with my brother and his girlfriend in New York, which, we were playing Vantage like that too. We'll do that remotely as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think I gravitate toward that's one of the reasons probably why I gravitate towards those games.
Yeah.
Like getting to be in that character's shoes and infuse them with a little bit of me and then see where that goes. Did you play any more of Oathsworn, by the way? Or did you never really get into that campaign that much because you didn't have time?
Yeah, I mostly just dabbled in it, but
Okay.
I did read through the story. The way I ended up,
Okay.
I played like one actual game of it, and then I treated it as a storybook game because the storybook is incredible. Like
Oh,
the
the
story
writing
is
is great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So we'll have to do that again soon.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this discussion. You know what? I look at the time; it goes by really fast. It goes by incredibly fast. I feel like
Come to talk about games.
did
Yeah.
we really have a full conversation with two full topics? And then anything you wanted to add? I didn't mean to cut you off because I got so excited about my emotional journey through my games.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else in regards to that, especially tied back to the question of the feelings that it evokes in terms of either playing or game design.
Yeah, the
And
game design thing. Yeah,
I think maybe what I come back to a little bit is whenever I have the opportunity to make a choice when I'm playing a game, to make a choice when I end up asking myself, oh, what would my character do in this situation? Because there's often a strategic choice, and that's
right.
fun. I can make the strategically correct choice. But sometimes when I'm maybe that's in doubt, and the game has given me the chance to say, what would my character do, or what would this animal do, whatever the thing is that is making the decision. I really like that. I like being able to make that thematic choice. And I don't know what the feeling is there, but it comes down to immersion for me, being able to immerse myself and escape into this other character or this other situation.
Well, let's use Vantage
Yeah.
as a quick example, then we'll wrap
Mhm.
things up. Let's use Vantage as an example. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the if then tree that must come from that story of like, if this happens and how it branches off,
Yeah.
and just the choices that you can make during the game. Did you find yourself as you were playtesting, as you were designing and creating more and more, because it's such a big world that you created, did you find yourself getting emotionally attached to certain stories or certain things that happen in the game? And then that emotion turns into excitement for someone else getting to experience that as well. Did you have that kind of journey when you were designing the game?
In a few different ways, ways that I can't fully talk about without kind of
I figured.
spoiling
Yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah.
Um, but so much of a Vantage is designed around letting the player ask themselves that question, like, what would my character do in this situation, or what do I want to do in this situation? I really ask that question. What do I want to do right now? Not what can I do or what
Right.
does the game allow me to do, but what do I want to do? Um, and I think that's a beautiful question for a game to ask. That's why I wanted to ask an Advantage, and I love when other games ask that question to players. What do you want to do right now? And giving you the ability to do something sometimes that is just simply fun or interesting or
Right.
different, rather than the strategically correct choice.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Oh, strategically correct is so boring. That's so 2024, Jamie. We've evolved since then. We want more. No, that's awesome. And again, it just gets me more excited for Vantage. And honestly, that's one of the things that I look for when I go to. Well, I guess the only game convention I really have been going to is PAX Unplugged, and I
Mhm.
sort of gravitate towards these story-based campaign games or choice-driven games.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't get enough of it. But yeah, Vantage is going to be something special. Anyway, I can't fanboy too much about Stonemaier. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. Jamie, thank you for joining again this week, and for tolerating my emotional journey that I told you about Descent Legends of the Dark.
Oh,
And we do appreciate you listening. Not only that, listening and watching, but as you just heard, we don't just throw it out there and say, "Hey, if you have something you'd like us to talk about, let us know." We really do respond, and it leads to really great conversations. So thank you, anyone who's responded or commented, and we're getting a lot of great feedback from you guys, whether you're watching on Jamie's YouTube channel for Stonemaier Games or the positivelyboardgaming.com website, which has all of our episodes, or of course, listening to the podcast on your platform of choice. So thank you again. This was episode 5.
episode
Jamie,
5.
the train just keeps on going. And yes, this week we're emotional wrecks on that train, but you know what? Tomorrow, next one, it'll be just all like laughter. And then, this one was sort of more pensive, thinking about
Yeah.
ourselves and our emotional journey as gamers. I like that.
What I'd
I'm a
love to hear from others as they're watching this or listening to this, for the emotional journey, if you had a game give you a strong emotional reaction, especially if it's maybe a campaign game or a
yeah,
character-driven game, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Or going back to my topic, if you have a favorite moment recently in terms of positive player interaction, I'd love to hear about that game as well.
I love that too, and I look forward
Yeah.
to talking about it. You know when? On episode 6 coming up next week. All right, thank you for listening, everybody. Jamie, I will talk to you soon.
Take care.